Hey, how you doing? This is Maurice. Welcome back for another episode of the Try Life On podcast. I am floored. If you could just feel the energy that I just had talking with my man Cole Hayden. Cole and I met on social, actually through LinkedIn a while ago. He is a pending college graduate of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, has worked his way to a job offer to Amazon. But what is so unique about this brother is his awareness that life can be different, his awareness that relationships matter to move the life needle forward, his awareness of experiences and what they mean for you. He even quoted Bill Perkins' Die with Zero book, where Bill in that book talks about memory dividend, understanding that experiences have an enormous amount of value in our life. It is refreshing to see someone out of college who is thinking about coming into a career and truly focusing on the outcome of that career being time freedom, financial freedom, geographic freedom, and ability to move about the planet. I think these are one of those conversations that anyone who is going into college or any adult who has a kid going into college should truly listen to and even apply the conversation to what's going on in your life now. Please listen to this conversation with the amazing Cole Hayden, pending college graduate, but certainly real world life plugger into. He gets it, man. He's plugging into life and planet as intended. And I was very happy to get him on the podcast. I hope you enjoy this Try Life On podcast with Cole Hayden. And there he is. What's up, man? It's good to meet you finally.
Yeah, it's good to meet you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I haven't seen you around much lately, but I'm sure things have like perked up with school and everything like that.
Yeah, things have gotten busy, but last semester.
It is your last semester. You doing okay?
Yeah, I graduate May 14th, so just trying to finish up this BA. But yeah.
May 14th. Tell me, are you excited? Or are you like, ugh, now I gotta go?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I've been listening to a podcast recently by Jocko Willink, and it's talking about like the games in life that we play. And I was like, okay, like this game's about to wrap up, like the whole game of school, like college. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see what the next step is. But yeah.
But you get it though. You recognize that it's a bit of like, I don't know. You get that it's a bit of a game like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I see like why you go to college, like what the reason is, and I got what I came here for. So I'm just kind of cruising now, just trying to get my credits so that I can graduate. But how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. And you know the reason why I wanted to track you down, bro? I am not graduating from college. I've been out of college a long time. Although yeah. I never really understood when old school heads back in the day would be like, they'd be in their late 40s and 50s and shit. And they would say, I'm telling you, in my head, I am still where you are right now. Like I get it. And I totally remember what it feels like to be getting out of high school, be getting out of college and running into the real world. And the thing that really struck me about you was the questions you were asking relative to entering the real world and how to beat it. And I say that phrase lightly. There's nothing wrong with the real world. I just like our approach to it just doesn't make sense. The way that school is telling us to come out and climb and get this title and etc. just didn't make sense. And to see someone at your point in life asking those questions, it struck me. So I wanted to just ask you, and obviously we're just going conversation style, and that's all it's intended to be. Like, where does that come from? And why were you even asking questions like that?
I think it stems from two areas. One, reading. So I try and read a lot.
Yeah.
And the more I read, the more I realize the conventional way of thinking is almost outdated. And a lot of people will fall into that bucket without questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've spoken about this. Instead of being like reactive to what happens in your life, kind of taking it and being proactive and choosing what happens.
Yep.
And I think I've got a lot of that from books. And then second, I like almost overanalyze like all the actions that my family takes. So like my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, I love having conversations with them and just understanding their thought process on how they approach life and
Mhm.
how they've gotten to the point of where they are. And I like to think about, how happy they are with their choices and the choices that I'd like to emulate and the ones that I'd like to avoid. And the more that I do that, the better understanding I have of where I'd like to go.
Mhm.
So I'd say those are the two areas, like reading books and then analyzing the decisions that my family and even friends have made.
So what is the game to you? You were talking about, like, Jocko Willink was talking about the college game per se, and then my assumption is you perceive that there's a work game coming, and that's okay. We can play it for a minute. What is that to you? What are you seeing as a college student coming out now? And dude, I came out of school in 1997, and I have a feeling some of the things you're going to say they're still the same. They're still the same. And in 2023, so what are you seeing? What's that game in college and work world?
So for me and myself, and I can speak for what I want, is
Yeah.
at least in terms of the game, like that Jocko was outlining, is you want to understand the rules of the world. So I guess that would be the laws and everything that you have to abide by.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything is kind of up to your discretion. And the second part of the game is the objectives that you want to hit. So I think identifying the objectives that I had for myself, like entering college,
Hmm.
was very important because look, well, one of the breakthroughs I had was early on in college. I read the Pareto Principle book, 80-20,
Yep.
and that really changed my mindset on what I should focus on because as you know, there's like a million things you can do in a day and you have to really prioritize what's important. So for me coming into school, I realized like, what do I want? Well, I want to graduate with a good job, a high paying job so that I can set myself up well for the future. And I figured, well, okay, what do I need to do? Well, I need to go to a college with a good brand name. So in high school, I realized that my local public university, UNC Chapel Hill, was my goal. So I worked hard to get in here. And then once I got in here, I had to apply for the business school. So I worked hard freshman year to get into the business school, and I actually got rejected.
Oh,
And
you
but I
did.
still realized that I did. I got rejected the first time, but you're allowed to apply twice. So
Mhm.
I realized like if I want to stay on this path to get to my objective, I have to make this work. So I stayed at UNC. I networked using LinkedIn, and that's how we met. And I actually got an internship with Cisco,
Oh, wow.
and Cisco was the big breakthrough. So that's where I went from just one student to someone with an actual a resume that is worth something. And I realized that this would be like a snowball effect. So I built off of that. And when I came back to UNC, I started the sales club here. And then I used that to get Amazon Web Services internship for last summer, which I turned into a full time offer. So, in short,
Oh, you're headed to Amazon.
correct. Yeah. In Seattle.
Okay. Okay. But sorry, you said in short.
Yeah. In short, I realized what was important to get to my objective, which
Yeah.
was I want to walk across the stage on May 14th with a good job offer. And I realized that investing a significant amount of my time into strictly classwork wouldn't really get me there. And I knew that being a business major, a business and econ major, I had to prioritize the internships because that's what's most important.
Yep.
So I put a lot of my time into those buckets, and like you say, like allotting your time into what's important. So that's what got me here,
I
and I
love that.
realized I achieved my objectives. So ever since last September when I got the job offer, it's been smooth sailing from there.
It's got your mind right, right? You've got the objective, so you're not spending, back to Pareto's law, you're not spending 80% of your time getting 20% of the result, kind of thing.
Exactly.
You've already got
Yep.
the result. I want to call that out. I wasn't as good as you in college. The way you're talking about it, I kind of had the mentality of like, well, there was less information back then about this type of stuff, if you will. Like back then, you wanted to get involved in as many things as possible, fill your resume, so people would think that you were a well-rounded person, so they might give you a job, kind of thing. Fortunately, I got a good job, but I want to call out what you said about Pareto's law, which I figured out in corporate life. And by the way, feel free. I know you ask the questions sometimes on LinkedIn, brother. This is for you too, so you can ask whatever you want.
Yeah.
But Pareto's law, for people who are listening, is the notion that you can do 20% of the things that are important and you'll probably get 80% of the result. And when I was in corporate, I started to realize that we were having 3-hour meetings, which could have been done in 10 minutes. People were going to happy hours at 5:30 p.m. to have one conversation, but staying there until 9 p.m. or something like that, wasting time. Where if I protected that time, as you know, Cole, I could go be a police officer or serve in the military or spend my protected time investing in real estate such that when the game was over, if you will, I had plenty of assets on the chessboard that would take care of me forever so I could get off career highway when I chose. I love that you figured out Pareto's law early. The other thing that I love about your current journey in the college space is like college is good, man. I don't have any problem with college. I have a problem with the notion that everybody has to go to college and that it's the end all be all of everything. No, college is a business, and you know that now. And somehow you started to realize that, started to quote unquote play the game and make sure you went down the internship track to get to the ultimate outcome, which is the good paying career, to then do something with those paychecks, as you and I always talk about, right? So I just want to highlight those things, man. And if you're thinking that way already, you're way ahead of the game. So what's next? What's the thought process for when you get out to by the way, Amazon's a great fucking company, I think. But what's next for you when you get out there?
Yeah, so I'll be starting in September working for Amazon Web Services.
Yeah.
And I'll be working in the sales department, so just selling the cloud to companies, and
Nice.
I'm hoping to have a good time out there. I'm young, try to experience like the city life. I've never been there. Been in Chapel Hill since I was a young child, but yeah, I just like to learn how to best approach a career like this, because
Mhm.
fortunately I was able to land a good opportunity, and I want to make sure that I leverage it to the best of my ability. So that's why I've been reading books, reading your posts, making sure that I educate myself on smartest decisions to make with this opportunity.
So you're not because most people would just go and just start making money. I feel like you're thinking
Yeah,
about it more strategically than most, is what I get a sense.
yeah. I mean, from reading your posts specifically, I learned that we all have life energy, and it's really our time. And I was driving home the other day from Virginia, and I realized like I guess a lot of people are chasing wealth just for the sake of wealth,
Yeah.
and but at the end of the day, money is just a tool to buy things that you want, whether that's freeing up your time to spend with your siblings like myself,
Hmm.
or working out, or anything of that nature. So I really need to identify like what do I want to what experiences do I want with my time, and what money do I need to achieve those. So I think I mentioned this book to you the other day, but Die with Zero.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah,
Um,
what's the thought there? I don't know that book, but I'm gonna pick it up. Probably an audiobook, but
yeah, yeah. So just real quick, actually, last semester I took my final econ course. It was making major life decisions using economics,
hmm.
and my professor assigned this book to us, Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. And I actually didn't read the book during the course, but I picked it up recently and started going through it. And early on, he started talking about life energy and how we all have life energy to use. And like you say, like buying $100 shirt, if you're paid $20 an hour, that's 5 hours of your life.
Hmm.
And so you need to really think about like how important is this purchase to me. So actually, as I'm graduating, I'll have 4 months off before starting,
Hmm.
and this was a big decision for me, was to do I stay in Chapel Hill and save money until I go out to Seattle for Amazon, or do I take this opportunity to backpack Europe?
Hmm.
And the more I spoke with my dad, I realized, this is the bucket of time in which is ideal to do this. Now I don't have the money to do that right now, so I'll have to figure out a way to get that done, or maybe get a loan from a family member. But what I learned from reading his book on life energy is, at my age, 21, I can go backpack and stay in hostels.
Yep.
And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to transfer some of my future wealth to now. So I'll get a loan and then I'll pay it off in the future. And to that point, it doesn't perfectly align with what you write about on LinkedIn, which is, storing your money and using that to buy assets that will get you passive income over time. But I realize, also, as you write about life energy, like it's very important to have experiences like this,
Oh
and you write
yeah.
about travel. So, it not everything has to, I guess, have a financial
No.
ROI, and this will have what he writes about is it's called memory dividends. So over time, I will be able to talk to friends and family about this trip for the next 5, 6 decades. So maybe it'll cost me $8,000 to go to Europe for 2 months, but in the long run, it could end up being worth $500,000
I'm gonna tell
just
you
in terms
something,
of
man.
memories.
You just taught me something, so thank you. I've never heard the phrase memory dividend, but I've been living it. And I understand what I talk about on social media and out loud about storing your capital and being able to invest it. Before you take that as the gospel as like the number one thing for me, that is not the number one thing for me. The number one thing for me is that life is about experiences and relationships. Period. Money is just a tool to have more of those experiences and relationships. So, yes, I'm making more money now. I'm 47 now, I'm making more money now, but it's just facilitating me. Like if I go invest in create a new business or like invest in a media project or something, yes, I'm going to get a financial return from that. But what I'm really getting from that is an experience and relationships that I will think about for the rest of my life. Right. To your point about the backpacking stuff, when I was 21, to be clear, I started traveling when I was 15 and I didn't have money at all. My parents are my family, Haitian immigrant family, we didn't have anything. My dad got 3 jobs. He was a teacher, but would add being a bus monitor and working at a urban farm in Boston when we were young. And he did that to send me to Paris. So I went to Paris when I was 15, traveled around the country with a family, changed my life. And it's that trip, Cole, when I was 15, 1990. I had so many experiences that I didn't understand as an inner city Boston kid. French funeral, French wine, French girls, French castles, French lakes, the Mediterranean, the Atlantic Ocean, the accents, the food. Like it was just
Yeah.
one of those things that kind of blew my mind that I wanted more. To your point about memory dividend, the kid whose family I stayed with, we've been friends for 30 years. We're still tight. He's redoing his vows to his wife of 20 years, who's Italian, in northern Spain in a place called Tarragona. I went to his wedding 20 years ago, and I'm going to his vow session in October of this year. I'm so
It's awesome.
tied to this guy and the memories we've had together, the fact that we were kids and what we have become. There's nobody can there's not a amount of money somebody could hand me that I would want to lose that memory. In fact, that original trip is what sparked all these travels to 100 countries over 300 times. It wasn't that I want to see the whole world, brother. It's that I want to have the memory dividends that your guy Bill Perkins is talking about. And lastly, as you go into your just on this point, as you go into your career, just from my perspective, being 25 years ahead of you, I guess, it is those experiences and those trips, not as a tourist, Cole, but as a human and as someone who wants to plug into planet and earth as intended. Build relationships with people when you get out there, not the people you're traveling with, homie, not the people from the US necessarily, but the people who are all over the world who are nothing like you, who can teach you something radically different. It is worth the investment to do that. So any loan you take for $6,000 or $8,000 to do what it is that you're going to do, to me, that has more return on investment than any piece of real estate ever would.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you that word of encouragement. Like, I know I talk financial stuff a lot. It's harder on a place like LinkedIn to talk the like the life stuff. I try, but it's harder.
Yeah.
But you're going down this path, man, and I'm like, absolutely, because then you're going to start to realize that the world was never about Chapel Hill in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I moved here in middle school and I've been here ever since. And I guess I realized that it's definitely a bubble, and it's a very educated bubble. And it's got certain demographics, and the school thinks a certain way. So I'd like to get out there like you experienced in your travel at 15. And it's cool that you got to go out there so young and at the start of your journey. I'm sure that maybe that spurred you to start investing in real estate so that you could have that money and the time to go abroad.
this is what happened that I have never articulated on LinkedIn, but I'll tell you here. I've said it in some other places. The whole thing that you've sensed from me about trying life on and this approach or whatever, dude, my experience is I'm just like collecting them and I'm jotting down all the principles and I'm giving people an excuse to go live life their way. That I'm very good at it at this point, right? But the money aspects came in from I had those experiences when I was 15. I found personal finance for dummies when I was 21. I found passive income when I was 22. Then I started to realize if I can divorce my need to make money, to be in person to make money, then I can go back to when I was 15 and have more experiences. I would have time freedom. So you just hit the nail on the head. It was never about money. It was always about time and financial freedom so I could go back to when I was 15 and have all these freaking experiences. But where it manifested itself was, oh, but I don't have to wait to have money to have those experiences. I can design my life, not take promotions per se or whatever, go try out for the NFL, go become a street cop, go become a federal agent unapologetically, whatever, to being promoted. Sometimes being promoted is good, but it's not what I wanted. But once I found the money aspect, then I just realized it would empower more experiences. You see where I'm getting at?
I do.
So
Yeah.
that's what you see. What you see is like, nah, dude, I don't think a lot of investors are actually out there making money. What they're making is ability to go live life as intended. If that makes sense. Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
you're up against. And lastly, when you get to your corporate space, it's going to be very easy to lose this kind of perspective because everyone around you is going to be talking about getting to the next thing, getting to the next thing, getting to the next thing. And I think that's okay in your 20s and 30s. That is the time of exploration. But just like you had the wherewithal going to Chapel Hill to think through, like, what's the real outcome of this whole thing? Have fun, like balls to the wall, go to the happy hours, enjoy yourself, make relationships and all that type of stuff. But just keep the outcome at the forefront of your mind the way that you did now.
Yeah. And to touch on your point, I think one of the coolest things about your journey is like the dichotomy between sacrificing your time earlier on in life,
Mm-hmm.
maybe to, as you write about, missing your kid's soccer game or whatever, to get that real estate deal done or whatever, building your assets and acquiring your assets so that in the future you'd have that time freedom to spend more time with your kids, travel and do those things. So in the book Guy with Zero, he talks about, so what he does is he's a private investor and he's always trying to, and he got an engineering degree from Iowa. So his whole mindset is maximizing utility. So he's like, in the game of life, how do we maximize for net fulfillment? And you base that off of your life energy. How do you get the most out of your life energy? And what I've been thinking about a lot recently from your posts are the 25 years that it took you to build up to where you are today and the sacrifices you had to make and the rewards that you see now. And I'm sure that it's paid off 10x, 100x now. But how do you, throughout the process of building that like foundation, how do you justify to yourself like, oh, this is the right thing I'm doing? Like on Saturday, I'm getting up, and you talk about creating extra time for yourself from like 4 to 8 a.m. because most people are asleep. And but yeah, how do you, so I guess you're transferring that time early in life and on the gamble that in the long run it will be 100x in terms of your life energy.
I can tell you from experience that I have come to understand that not only does money compound, but time compounds. So when I do make that post about working from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., that's 4 days, that's 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month, 960 hours a year. That's 5.7 weeks that you've created. If you add a Saturday and a Sunday 4-hour block, that's 2 extra months. So I make that post about how to make a 14-month year. That means that over the course of 5 years, 6 years, I have worked on my goals 1 year longer than anybody else. I didn't realize it when I was doing it. I'm saying all this shit in reflection. Like I didn't know. One of the there's two things. One, Kobe talked about that when he would talk about he would practice from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. He'd go home, and then he'd come back to the gym from 11 to 1. He'd go home, and then he would practice again from like 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. He had that many out, that much more than everybody else. No one could ever catch him because everybody else was just working 2 hours a day. He was working 6 hours a day. I think even if you don't have that perspective, if you have a why on top of all this shit, you'll get to the right answer. And my why was that kid when I was 15. Was lifestyle, was family, was freedom. I don't like the idea of saying yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, to anyone except for God and my mother and father. Don't get me wrong, I did in the military. That's what you do. But I'm saying from a life perspective, I'm responsible to myself, my own value system and integrity, my mother, my father, and my God. That's it. There's no job controlling me. I have responsibilities to my investors, but I can make distinguished choices, right? As long as you keep the why and vision on that outcome that I think you know very clearly what it likely is for you, whether it's time freedom, financial freedom, geographic freedom, however you want to do it, however you want to design your life, it's going to spark you to think and do things a certain way. So when the fellas were hitting the club, don't get me wrong, I went to the club, I partied with the best of them. But there was a good majority of time on a Saturday morning where I was driving like 3 hours painting walls, and it was not easy, as you know, but it was so worth it because here I am, 47-year-old guy who thanks his 23-year-old self for making certain decisions, right? So just keep your why is my answer to that one.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, and I think I saw a video the other day where, if we have an assignment for work or for school, we'll make sure to prioritize that and get it done.
Yes.
But if there's something that we know we need to do for ourselves, such as read a book on real estate, we won't prioritize that just because it's something for ourselves and it's not something that has to get done immediately. But so I think it's trusting in that like getting up early to do that is something that you need to do. And I learned this lesson recently because I grew up playing soccer, and I knew you grew up playing football. Mm-hmm. And when you're on a team, it's much easier to convince yourself to go out and work out and practice when it's cold out. Mm-hmm. But when you're on your own, like now I work out and go to the gym, but it's on my own. So I have to convince myself that, it's worth it to go and do that, despite there's no accountability from external influence, like other people.
Yeah, man.
And so I think for me and people my age, it's really important to build that understanding of why this is important and that it is important to prioritize.
It is, and it's not. Look, you and I can sit here and be like, yeah, we can get all David Goggins and be like, yo, you got to do it. Dude, it's hard. It is hard. But when you do have a support system, I'm at a point in life where I can pay for a support system. So I still get up at 4 a.m. every day. I was up at 4 a.m. today. I was drinking coffee by 4:30. I sent out a few emails, and by 5 a.m. I was in my car on my way to the gym. I have a trainer that's waiting for me 3 days a week. I have business partners over in the Mediterranean that I call because they're 7 hours ahead of me, so I can call them. I got stuff to do. But if I don't prioritize future Maurice and future family and future society, because I'm doing philanthropic stuff too, from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. before Noah, my little kid, wakes up, it's never going to get done. So that's why in that 10-step plan that you've seen me post friggin' once every 2 weeks, is like I'm always posting it, right? And you know why I always post it? To piss people off. Because some people will be like, do you have any other plans? And I'm like, no, that's the one that worked really, really well. And to be successful at something, you have to be disciplined and consistent. So I'm going to consistently put the same shit out that worked for me over the last 25 years. But if you remember, one of the steps in there said, pay your future self first. You are your number one bill. That could be everything from paying you financially, paying 45-year-old Cole financially, but also paying him with physical health, paying him with life experiences, having traveled. You want to know how you can prioritize all that shit and stay motivated? Before you pay anybody, before you pay the school, before you go buy your boy a drink at the bar and all that, be like, did I pay future Cole today? Because he's waiting for you. That's how I look at shit now. And that's why I spend so much time, just so you know, with which is why I think you're very smart, man. I'm very impressed by you because you were seeking information from people who are 10, 20, 30 years your senior. I think that's smart because where I get my advice from typically, I go down to get my advice from someone like you because I don't know what it's like to be 21 anymore. I forget. But I
Yeah,
also go up where my mentor, I'm 47, my mentor is 63. He is where I'm headed. Pay your future self first, brother. If you can keep that perspective about you, it will guide you in the hardest of times when you don't feel like getting up.
you're right. I mean, perspective is everything, and like you just mentioned, I think having mentors is super important. And I was lucky enough to find some alumni from my university that would help mentor me, and they've been the ones who have helped me get the internships. They've gave me the recommendations that I needed to move ahead.
Mhm, mhm.
And as I get into my career, I'm gonna have to find new mentors that will help me make new decisions. And I think having you for free on LinkedIn be able to comment under your posts and get you to answer my questions is fantastic. And I think more people should take advantage of it.
Uh,
And I know your time is finite, but
yeah.
I know your time is finite, but if you're gonna
Well, you
post
know
every
what?
day and
Time,
answers,
brother, time is finite, but whatever success means to you, successful people tend, me included, to want to give back. I don't want to sit in my house like Scrooge McDuck because I have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of knowledge and not share it. People want to
yeah,
share. And that's why I'm so grateful to the people that have shared with me. So, to give you a little bit of feedback, the reason why when I see your comments, I typically always answer is because I can tell you're doing something very specific. It's not a casual question. It's because you are absorbing information that you're going to apply to your life and trying to get it early, and that's part of my mission and purpose. Remember that 15-year journey. Remember, I always talk about it, right? It took me 8 years,
yeah.
then it took me 15 years to be free and all that. What I'm trying to do, especially with this podcast, is help people get there faster. Because all that shit that I did on my own, there was no LinkedIn. Google had just started. Yahoo was around for a year, maybe. All there was for me was Library 6 or IO 6 at the library, with books like Die with Zero, but I was really more focused on the financial book because I didn't connect the dots to life until later. But when you ask questions like that, man, if people can see that you are genuine and you are truly trying to take the information and do something real with it, you know how many lurkers are out on social media? They'll ask a stupid question just to piss people off. It's just
Yeah.
annoying. But when I hear someone like you doing it genuinely, that's why I respond that way. So I'm grateful to that. I'm curious how you see your peers, fellow graduates, and like the typical people heading into college. Do they have this kind of mindset? Do you sense that kind of the Try Life On way of things is starting to permeate with people, or just kind of the status quo is still there?
Mm, I very much think the status quo is still there, unfortunately, and I think touching on what I said earlier is I think a lot of people are reactive instead of proactive. And instead of waiting or instead of going out and getting what they want, they'll wait for something to fall in their lap, whether that be a job opportunity or a project.
That's right.
Um, I think that it's just the media, the news, like society always constantly telling people what is right, what is wrong. Consumerism I think is a big issue, and you touch on that. And I've been trying to limit what I purchase because I realize that's not the path I want to go down. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, just to answer your question, I think people still are following the status quo and doing it for optics, external
Yeah.
optics to look good to other people.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm sure, when you were younger, people looked at you and thought, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
But now they look at you and they think, oh wow, this is good. I saw in your post today you mentioned an executive that had called you out saying like, what are you doing, Maurice? But
Yeah.
now they look at you and they're impressed. So I think for me, it's just identifying, what like the truth is, and then figuring how I just want to act on that, and then well, just one more point is that
Yeah,
for
please.
me, I think what's been very important for me is identifying immensely significant opportunities and
Mhm,
taking as much value as those as I can. So, for instance, when you're approaching the internship search, which is very important as a college student, I
mhm,
think students will look and they'll make their resume and they'll shoot it out to maybe 100 companies.
mhm,
And what I did is I focused on a few and I networked with people and I met people, alumni, and I did the work to build those connections so that I could stand out from the rest of the applicant pool.
mhm.
And in the end, I actually do less work than the other students who have seen less results. I got a full-time offer from Amazon, and I truly feel like I did less work than other people because I was smarter with what I chose to do. And just a story is I was so excited to get my first interview with Cisco because this
Mhm.
is the point in time at which I was just a regular student to wow, like a Fortune 500 company is actually taking me seriously. And they asked me to make a 2-minute video over the weekend saying like why Cisco, like why do I want to work for Cisco. I was dog sitting for my aunt and uncle. I was at their house and I had to make it work. So I went to my dad's. I grabbed his like Canon camera instead of just using my phone. I took this very seriously, and I did not know how to edit a video. I stayed up all night. I filmed myself in their house, walking around in a suit. Like I did everything for this video, and I made it work. And I ended up landing the interview, and I got the internship position with
Love it.
Cisco,
I love
and
it.
that just snowballed, like I said. And so, the point of this story is I think identifying those important opportunities, such as when I came across your LinkedIn page and realized, what this guy's talking about is different from what other people say. I'm gonna follow him, and once I realized, like, okay, I'm gonna start asking him questions. For me, that was identifying like a rare opportunity and taking the absolute most of it. And I think most people, especially my age, and back on your last question, is they struggle or they fail to identify those opportunities that will have 100x ROI,
Yep.
and that's really their stumbling point is they'll attack maybe 10, 20, 30 things and then they'll get nowhere because they're
Yep.
not able to identify like this is what I need to focus on.
Yep.
And if more people could understand that, then people will be in better positions.
That's
But
a
yeah,
mic drop moment for anyone in any space, whether you're a college student or corporate or military or whatever is you're doing. Dude, the reticular activating system. Have you heard that phrase before?
I've
Okay.
not.
Look it up when you get some time. The reticular activating system is a part of our brain that recognizes things. It's the subconscious part of our brain that recognizes stuff. So let me ask you a question. When was the last time you saw a light blue Honda Accord?
I can't remember.
Right. You're going to see them all day now, just because we said this. You can, damn it, Maurice. Blue Honda Accord.
Yeah.
Okay. For all the amazing opportunities that are out there that you just articulated, internship perspective, long-term employment perspective, business perspective, real estate perspective, flying around the world, connecting with people perspective, those opportunities are there. They've always been there. It's just that our radar is not paying attention to them. And for some reason, some innate quality about you made your radar start to be on point about lifestyle design, financial freedom, time freedom, accessing the world and planet. So when you saw someone like me speaking about those topics, that keyed you, right? It is very hard to convince our peers, from my perspective, about those kinds of things when their radar is not available for it. So I stopped asking. I stopped trying. That is a key for you. I'm just throwing some free advice. That is a key for you for the rest of your life. There are going to be opportunities that present themselves that won't be apparent to other people, but they will spark some level of interest in you. Jump on them. And then there are going to be people that you run into. And that's that last of the 5 freedoms I talk about, freedom to build meaningful relationships. It's relationships. It's those relationships that you built that move us from point A to B, whatever that point A to B is. It's always been people. So the stuff in the Mediterranean I do, person. Like, how did I start 3 companies in the Mediterranean in less than 2 years? I can't do that. People, Quattro Capital, $200 million in real estate. I have 4 partners. People, business coach helped us out. Someone helped you deal with the Cisco stuff. So you took an opportunity to create something to get that person's attention. People. What you are paying attention to right now, Cole, is going to evolve. And then more opportunities are going to present themselves. I'm rambling a bit, but it's important because it's part of my purpose to give back to this whole journey that you are aware of, because we've been following each other a little bit, has been relative to my radar being open for opportunities, NFL, being a federal agent, traveling the Arctic, and taking advantage of the opportunity when people present themselves. And lastly, when you do interact with people to help you in some capacity, it's not just about you. And I already know that you know this. It is, one of the phrases I teach when I coach people is with it, is what's in it for them. I am always thinking about what's in it for people when I interact with them. Like, what can I give them? How can I help them? How can I help them move their ball forward? And maybe one day I might ask for something at some point, So keep that reticular activating system open. Understand that you're seeing things that other people aren't going to see. So it's not worth trying to convince people, from my perspective. And when relationships do present themselves, leverage them for sure, because successful people want to give back. Whatever success is, it has nothing to do with money. But make sure you are thinking about it from oh my God, what's in it? How can I help that person do that? And like, for me, the reason why you're here now and I asked you to come on this podcast, and I'm so grateful, is because you being here as a college student who's starting to enter the real world thinking this way validates what I've been thinking, like, this shit can be done different. So you're helping me and I'm helping you, and that's the way that it works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give you that very long-winded feedback, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I guess I'll just wrap this back to the first point I made, is most people look at money just as, money for what it is, just accumulating money for having money's sake, and that's it. And I really think it's important, to identify like what you want, what makes you happy, what makes you fulfilled, because time's going by. I'm 21. I'll never be 20 again. I mean, you'll never be 21 again, and so I just got to figure out, what's the path I want to take. But I really appreciate you making the post and replying to me and all of that. And thank you for your service as well.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. So just as we wrap up, what would be one thing? I mean, you've read Die with Zero, you follow my posts, you've certainly interacted with other people. What would be one thing that you would tell your peers or just people who are listening in terms of trying life on their way? What would you suggest to them, especially because you've done all this studying?
I'd say for the people listening, it's important to detach from your situation. And I believe we are all very short-sighted due to the news, the media, Instagram, Facebook. Everyone's only looking right in front of them. I think it's very important for you to take a moment, step back, detach, and assess the situation that you're in. Figure out where you are, where you'd like to be, what you can change, what the rules of the game are, and the objectives that you have for yourself, and whether the actions you take on a daily, weekly, monthly basis are helping you get there. And it's this detachment from the situation that will help you gain the perspective that you need to get to where you want to go. I think that's what I've done throughout my college career, and I hope to do as I enter the corporate world.
And Cole, my man, that is exactly why I tell you I get advice from people who are 20 years my junior, because there are certain times when we can easily forget, because I've already been through that phase in life, and you'll tell me something like that and it reminds me. Dude, I appreciate you, man. I wish you nothing but the best on your journey. I think you're on your way, whatever that might mean. You have the awareness that you need to get wherever you're going to go. If there's something I can do for you, you let me know. You have my contact information. Just text me. I don't give a shit. I love this journey you're on, man, and I wish you all the best with it. And I want to thank you for coming on with me and talking a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you, Maurice.
Awesome, brother.